You walk out to your yard one morning and your heart sinks. The lawn you've worked on looks like something attacked it overnight. Little holes punched everywhere. Patches of turf flipped over and tossed aside like someone went through it with a garden fork. Birds, dozens of them some mornings, stabbing and digging and yanking at your grass. And the first thing nearly everyone thinks is, how do I get rid of these birds? That, right there, is the mistake. Because the birds are not your problem. The birds are the messengers, and almost nobody stops to read the message. I'm going to tell you what those birds are actually telling you. The hidden thing living under your lawn that's drawing them in. Why every method people try to scare the birds away fails within a week. And the second secret, the one almost nobody mentions, that determines whether your lawn recovers or quietly dies from the inside out. Because here's the truth that gets missed every single time. The birds digging up your yard are not vandals. They're doing you a favor you don't yet understand. They've found something, and they're trying to tell you, in the only way they can, that your lawn is already in trouble underneath where you can't see. Let me start with why this is happening at all, because once you understand it, the whole frustrating mystery cracks wide open. Birds do not dig up healthy turf for fun. A robin yanking at your grass, a flock of starlings working across the lawn, a flicker hammering little holes in the dirt, crows flipping whole flaps of sod. They are not bored, and they are not malicious. They are hunting. And what they are hunting is protein-rich, fatty, slow-moving protein living in the top few inches of your soil. Birds have remarkable senses for this. Robins are thought to detect the faint movement and sound of prey just beneath the surface, and they can pinpoint a grub or a worm hidden under the grass with startling accuracy. So when a yard suddenly turns into a bird buffet, it's almost never random. It means the population of something edible down in that soil has exploded to the point where it's worth a bird's time and energy to dig for it, meal after meal after meal. Here's the problem in a single sentence. The birds are digging because your lawn is infested, and they found out before you did. That's the heart of this whole story, and it changes everything. In the great majority of these cases, the thing the birds are after is grubs. White grubs, the fat, C-shaped, cream-colored larvae of beetles, the larvae of Japanese beetles, June beetles, chafers, and their relatives. These grubs live a few inches down in the soil, and they eat one thing. They eat the roots of your grass. They sit just below the surface and chew through the root system that holds your entire lawn together and feeds it water. And a serious grub infestation can run into dozens of these creatures packed into a single square foot of soil. Turf specialists generally consider something like 5 to 10 grubs per square foot enough to cause visible damage to a lawn, and a heavy infestation can carry far more than that. Picture that. Under a patch of grass the size of a dinner plate, 10 or more fat larvae, all of them chewing your roots out from underneath, day and night. So while you're standing there furious at the birds, the real culprits are the grubs, and the birds are the only reason you found out at all. The birds are the smoke. The grubs are the fire. Now let me show you why every common solution people reach for fails, because this is where the wasted money and wasted effort pile up. The first instinct is to scare the birds away. People hang shiny tape, the flashing reflective ribbon that's supposed to terrify birds. They put out plastic owls and rubber snakes and those big-eyed balloons. They buy ultrasonic and noise devices that promise to drive birds off. And I'll remind you, the Federal Trade Commission has gone after makers of ultrasonic pest-repelling gadgets for claims they couldn't support. So be wary of anything promising to solve this with a sound. And here's why all of it fails. Even on the occasions when these things work for a few days, they only address the messenger. The birds are responding to a powerful, ongoing food source, and a hungry bird will get used to a plastic owl that never moves remarkably fast. Birds habituate. The shiny tape becomes background. The fake snake becomes a perch. But the deeper failure is this. Even if you somehow drove every last bird away for good, you would still have the grub infestation eating your lawn alive. You'd have hidden the smoke and left the fire burning. The lawn would keep dying, just more quietly, and you'd have spent your money making the warning sign disappear instead of fixing the thing it was warning you about. The second instinct, once people realize it's grubs, is to panic and carpet the whole lawn in the harshest grub killer they can find. And this fails in a different and more expensive way, which we'll come back to, because the timing and the choice of treatment matter enormously, and getting them wrong means you pay for poison that does nothing while the grubs keep eating. Now here's the big reveal. The thing the people who actually understand lawns know that the rest of the neighborhood doesn't. The birds are a free diagnostic service, and you should thank them. The single most valuable thing about a bird-torn lawn is the information. Those birds have told you, weeks or even months before you'd have figured it out on your own, that you have a grub problem serious enough to act on. And confirming it costs you nothing but a moment on your knees. Here's the test the pros use, and it's almost laughably simple. You go to the edge of one of the damaged areas, and you take hold of the grass and tug it. In a healthy lawn, the grass is anchored down hard by its roots and resists. But over a serious grub infestation, the roots have been chewed away beneath the surface, and the turf lifts up and peels back like a loose carpet, like a hairpiece, because there's almost nothing holding it down anymore. Peel it back, and there in the top inch or two of soil you'll see them, the fat, pale, curled grubs, lying right there in the daylight. That pull test, free and instant, tells you for certain what the birds were only hinting at. And let me destroy a myth right here, because it sends people in exactly the wrong direction. The belief that the birds themselves are damaging your lawn, and that stopping the birds will save it. It's backwards. The birds are doing a small amount of surface damage, yes, but they're doing it because the grubs already destroyed the roots underneath. The lawn was dying before the first bird ever landed. Blaming the birds for a grub-killed lawn is like blaming the firefighters for the water damage. The birds didn't kill your grass. They showed up because it was already dead at the roots, and they're cleaning up the infestation that did the real killing. So let me lay out the science a little deeper, because understanding the grub's life makes everything about fixing it make sense. These grubs run on an annual cycle tied to the beetles they become. In the warm months, the adult beetles fly mate and lay their eggs down in your lawn, often favoring lush, well-watered grass, because the eggs need moisture to survive. Those eggs hatch into tiny grubs in mid to late summer, and the young grubs begin feeding on roots near the surface, growing fast and doing their heaviest damage through late summer and into the fall, while they're small and feeding hard close to the top. As the cold comes on, they burrow down deep below the frost line to wait out the winter, then rise back up in spring to feed again briefly before they pupate and transform into the next generation of beetles to start the whole cycle over. Understanding that rhythm is the key to everything, because it tells you exactly when the grubs are small and vulnerable near the surface and when they're big and deep and nearly untouchable. Throwing treatment at the wrong point in that cycle is throwing money at dirt. So here's exactly how the people who know what they're doing handle it, and how you confirm and act with confidence instead of panic. First, you confirm with the pull test and a look in the soil, and you actually count. Pull back the turf in a few damaged spots and count the grubs in roughly a square foot. This matters more than people realize, because a lawn can tolerate a small number of grubs with no real harm, and a few birds pecking around is not an emergency. The threshold where it's genuinely worth treating is generally up around that 5 to 10 per square foot range or higher, especially on a healthy lawn that can shrug off a little feeding. If you dig and find 1 or 2 grubs, you do not have an infestation. You have a normal lawn, and you can put the panic and the wallet away. Counting first is what separates the wise homeowner from the one who poisons their whole yard over nothing. Second, if the count truly warrants it, you treat at the right time in that life cycle, not whenever you happen to notice the damage. The vulnerable window is when the grubs are young, small, and feeding near the surface, in the warmer months after the eggs hatch. That's when treatments can actually reach them and do the job. By contrast, The big grubs you find in spring or the deep ones in late fall are far harder to control, and dumping treatment on them then often wastes the product. The lawn care world makes a real distinction between products that prevent grubs, applied earlier to stop the young ones before they take hold, and products that kill grubs already present, which need to hit them while they're still small and high in the soil. Matching the treatment to the moment is the whole game, and it's exactly the part that the panic buyer at the store, grabbing any bag with a beetle on it in the wrong season, gets wrong. Now here's the second secret, the bigger one, the thing that matters even more than killing this year's grubs, and that almost nobody ever talks about. And it's this: a thick, deep-rooted, healthy lawn is the real defense against grubs, and a weak, shallow, stressed lawn is what invites them in and lets them win. The grubs are not just a cause of your lawn's trouble, they're often a symptom of it. Here's the chain that nobody explains. Remember how the beetles prefer to lay their eggs in lush, moist, often overwatered grass. And remember that a lawn watered lightly and often, the way most people do it, grows shallow, weak roots. Now put those two facts together. The shallow-rooted lawn is the one that suffers most when grubs eat the roots, because it had so little root to spare in the first place, so even a modest number of grubs can kill it. The deep-rooted lawn can lose a chunk of root to grub feeding and barely show it, because it had reserves down deep. So the very same watering and care habits that produce a weak lawn also produce the lawn that grubs damage most easily and most visibly. The strong lawn often carries the same grubs with no symptoms at all. This is why two neighbors can have the same beetles flying over both yards, and one lawn gets torn apart while the other never shows a mark. The difference isn't luck, it's the health of the turf and the depth of the roots. That's the secret behind the secret. Killing the grubs deals with today's crisis, but building a thick, deeply rooted, properly watered and mowed lawn is what makes your yard the one the damage passes over entirely, year after year. The healthiest lawns on the block are quietly hosting grubs and birds too. They just don't fall apart over it, and their owners often never even know. So let's build the complete system, the way someone who truly understands this puts it all together. The first layer is reading the sign and confirming the truth. When the birds show up and dig, you don't reach for the shiny tape. You drop to your knees, do the pull test, peel back the turf, and count the grubs in a square foot. You let the birds be the free alarm they are, and you respond to what they found, not to the birds themselves. If the count is low, you relax and do nothing but tend your lawn. If it's high, you move to the next layer. The second layer, when truly warranted, is targeted treatment at the right time. You match the product to the moment in the grub's life cycle, hitting the young grubs near the surface in the warmer months when control actually works, rather than wasting treatment on the big, deep grubs of spring and late fall. There are also gentler, more natural approaches worth knowing about, including beneficial nematodes, microscopic organisms that hunt grubs in the soil, and milky spore, a naturally occurring bacterium that targets certain beetle grubs over time, though results with these vary and they ask for patience. You choose your approach with the life cycle in mind, and you treat only the area and the amount that the actual count justifies. The third layer, and the one that matters most for the long run, is building the lawn that grubs can't ruin. You water deeply and infrequently to drive roots down deep, instead of the light daily sprinkle that keeps roots shallow, and not coincidentally, keeps the surface soil moist and inviting for beetle eggs. You mow high, because taller grass grows deeper roots and shades the soil. You feed the soil with organic matter, so the whole system is vigorous. A lawn built this way does two things at once. It becomes far less attractive to the egg-laying beetles in the first place, and it shrugs off the feeding of any grubs that do move in, because it has roots to spare. This is the layer that turns the whole problem from a yearly battle into a non-event. And there's a fourth, gentler truth worth holding on to. The birds, for all the mess, are part of nature's own pest control. A flock working your lawn is removing grubs by the hundreds for free. Once you understand that, the sight becomes a little less infuriating. They're not the enemy. In a balanced, healthy yard, birds eating grubs is exactly how it's supposed to work. Let me put the real cost comparison in front of you, because here is where the whole thing turns over. Think about the homeowner who fights the birds. They buy the reflective tape, the plastic owl, the noise gadget, maybe several rounds of these things across a frustrating season, easily spending a good chunk of money, and every dollar of it is wasted, because the grubs keep eating no matter how many birds get spooked, and the lawn keeps dying. Then the lawn fails badly enough that they tear out and resod the dead patches, or pay a service to do it, which can run into real money, hundreds of dollars for sod and labor on a sizable area, and if they never fix the underlying grub problem and the weak lawn conditions, the new sod gets eaten too and they pay again. Now think about the homeowner who read the message. They spent nothing confirming the problem, just a minute on their knees with a pull test. They treated only if the count justified it, only the affected area, only at the right time, so the modest cost of a treatment actually worked, instead of being flushed away on bad timing. And the real investment they made was free or nearly so, changing how they water and mow to build a deep-rooted lawn that resists the whole problem going forward. They spent a fraction of what the bird fighter spent, and they actually solved it, while the bird fighter spent more and solved nothing. The cheaper path was the one that worked. The expensive path was the one that treated the messenger and ignored the message. And that's the quiet lesson sitting under this whole thing. None of it was ever truly hidden. The turf scientists and the old groundskeepers have always known that birds tearing up a lawn means grubs underneath, that you confirm with a simple tug and a count, that you treat the young grubs at the right moment if at all, and that a deep-rooted, well-tended lawn is the only lasting defense. It's plain, practical knowledge. But it doesn't sell shiny tape or plastic owls or panic bags of poison, and so the simple truth got drowned out by an entire aisle of products aimed at the wrong target. We got taught to fight the birds because there was money in selling us things to fight them with, and almost nobody had any reason to sit us down and explain that the birds were on our side the whole time. So here's where I'll leave you. The next time you walk out and find the birds have been at your lawn, don't curse them and don't run to the store for something to scare them off. Get down on your knees instead. Tug the grass, peel it back, count what you find. Let the birds be the free, early warning they were always meant to be, and respond to the grubs they uncovered, not to the birds themselves. Treat smart, and only if the count earns it, and then build the deep-rooted, properly watered lawn that makes your yard the one the trouble passes right over. The birds were never the problem. They were the only ones telling you the truth, and now you finally know how to listen. If this changed the way you'll look at those birds on your lawn tomorrow morning, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because the next file we're opening goes right back down into that same soil. There's a single sign in your grass, something you can see from your own kitchen window, that reveals you're watering your lawn completely wrong, and the fix is so simple and so nearly free that you'll wonder why you spent years doing it the hard way. I'll see you in that one.